Okay.
Is that me with the hat
What?
in that picture? You had some sort of screensaver. Oh no, that's Mary.
It's my mother.
No, from here you can't tell who it is. I'm like, who the fuck is that?
How much closer did you need to be? It's my children, my wife.
Yeah, I know, but like peripherally, I was like this, and then I saw someone in a hat, and then
I
and then
know.
it switched over. And I didn't get a chance
I
to
know.
look
I
at
know
it.
we had a lot of pictures together in Disney
Yeah,
together,
yeah,
but not this one.
yeah. So I could have been in your picture. Yeah, I
Okay.
might have photobombed it.
All right. I think we're ready to rock.
I was wearing a hat in Disney.
Yeah, you did, but not that
I
outfit.
I know, but I saw the hat. The hat is what I keyed on.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Goody Johnny Mo with the movies. Tonight we're doing episode 61, and for this episode we are doing the review for the new Scream 6 that just came out about 2 weeks ago. And yeah, we're going to get this started for St. Patty's Day weekend.
Yeah, we're still in St. Patrick's Day weekend.
So thank you so much for joining us. To our podcast listeners and to our viewers on YouTube, thank you guys so much for joining us. As always, this will be spoiler heavy, so be prepared for that. We are going to do our drink of the night.
So on this fine St. Patrick's Day weekend, I'm apparently drinking German beer. I found
What the hell's the matter with you?
out of season, found a 6 pack of Bitburger Fest beer, which is usually only around
Like early
in
winter.
Oktoberfest. You know, like
Oh, October. Is it
October.
Oktoberfest? I
Yeah,
thought it's like,
that's
like
when
one
they
of their
bring it
early
out.
winter beers.
Yeah, but they bring it out like
Okay.
a little prior to
Right on
October.
Oktoberfest.
I've never seen it this far out of the year, so maybe they just didn't
You got them
sell.
leftovers.
Yeah, but like, hey, I was like, hey, Bitburger Fest beer, I'm in, but I'm drinking it in my standard Black Forest Brewhouse glass, which should only house German beer, and I'm happy with that.
I am going with a traditional Guinness for this weekend.
Yeah.
I had one left after St. Patrick's Day the other night, and I'm going to finish it off right now.
Awesome. All right, so
So,
here we go.
cheers to episode 61. Thank you everyone for joining us.
I hope everybody did enjoy their St. Patrick's Day. I know I did. I went to Donovan's Pub on Friday, took the day off, went there for lunch, had a great Irish lunch. I went to the waitress. I said, she goes, what would you like to drink? I said, I'm ready. Get your list, get your pen and paper. I said, I need a shot of Tullamore Dew Irish whiskey. I said, I need a Coke and a pint of Guinness and an Irish coffee all at once and a shepherd's pie for food. I had a good St. Patrick's Day. Very happy.
And with that, guys, we are going to jump right into this review.
Yeah, we saw Scream 6,
Opening weekend,
which was last week.
which was last weekend.
Yeah.
This is obviously the sixth film in the franchise. Kind of got revived last year after they had a nice little gap between the fourth movie and the fifth one.
Yeah, so the fifth movie wasn't called Scream 5. They just decided to call it Scream for some reason, which
Right.
to me,
Well, some
I'll be
people
honest, I didn't know that made any sense.
the five was kind of the S in Scream.
Or was it the E?
No, I think it was the five.
Okay. Maybe
think.
I'll have to look at that. But apparently that was released in 2022. And we were like, wow, really? Was it last year?
I felt like it was almost 2 years ago.
My rationale is that if it was released in 2022, the reason why it's so close is because it was probably delayed because of the pandemic. And
That's a possibility.
It was probably ready to be released in maybe late 2020, but probably 2021.
Now, as far as like all the sequels go, so I mean this is the second film really with like this newer young cast that they have.
Yeah.
And the first film without its main star, Neve Campbell,
Right, and we lost Dewey.
and we lost Dewey
because
in
he died
the
in
last
that
film.
But we still get
We still have Courtney Cox as Gail Weathers.
who I want to say Courtney Cox has undergone multiple facial reconstruction. Not reconstruction. What do you call that?
Some injections,
No, what do you call that? When they do,
Botox,
no, when they do stuff on your face.
plastic surgery.
Plastic surgery. She has definitely had some sort of plastic surgery and or Botox and or whatever. Because man, she looks like it's just obvious. I mean, she's a beautiful woman, and I'm like, I feel bad when people say, "Oh, I'm getting old. Let me do this Botox." And it's like, you know what? Some people can age naturally and
Well,
stay beautiful, and I think she would look better if she didn't do anything. But then again, I don't know
it's a good question.
what she would look like if she didn't do what she did.
And also, so we just actually found this out before we started
Yeah,
doing this.
this is
Is
great.
that so? The voice of Ghostface on the phone is done by this, I'm guessing, voice actor Roger
Roger
Jackson,
Jackson.
who has been the voice of Ghostface for all 6 films.
Yeah, this guy's a freaking monster, man.
Yeah,
He's probably the most famous, one of the most famous voice actors that
one of the most
everybody
recognizable
everybody recognizes
voices.
it, but nobody has any idea who he is. If you ask anybody who has been the voice of Ghostface for the last 6 movies, one, they would probably be surprised that it's the same person. Two, they would be like, "Oh my God, it has
I'm
been a
surprised it
single
was a.
person the whole time."
I was surprised it was a person. I honestly,
Nobody
when we
knows his
found that
name.
out, I said to him, I honestly thought it was a voice modulator. I did not think that a person was doing that over the phone.
No, in all honesty,
I mean, obviously he did it in a recording studio, but you
right,
know what I
but
mean.
that voice is deeply embedded and associated as a key identifier
Oh,
of the
in this
Scream
franchise.
franchise.
Oh, yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's all him. And
That
this guy is like he is
that voice is as iconic
yeah, it's
as the
iconic.
Ghostface costume itself.
And this guy's been doing it since what,
1996,
1996. So how many years is that? We're going on 30 years now.
almost 30,
I mean, it's crazy. Like that's you would think like
27 years.
this guy would be a little bit more well known
Yeah.
at all. It's actually kind of funny. Like so we want to give Roger Jackson
Yeah, gotta
props
give some credit, man. Like that's pretty cool.
because
Even Courtney Cox, I
I'm
mean, me
actually a
too.
big fan of voice actors because
Absolutely.
way back in the day, a lot of voice acting was done by like people that's what their job was, like in
Right.
cartoons or in animated films. And then at some point there was a big paradigm shift where these animated movies and animated cartoons started casting well-known actors and actresses as the voices
Yeah,
to
screen actors and actresses.
yeah, to give like so like more identifiability or recognizability. Maybe like a more of a draw.
Bring a little more weight to it
But
all.
and I can tell you right now, the impact that probably had on the voice actor community was probably devastating because now all these people that all they did was voice acting, all of a sudden, a lot of those opportunities dried up, and
Yeah.
now you got big name actors and actresses that were already making $1 million in live action. Now they're also doing animation, which they probably love, but at the end of the day, it killed so many other people. So this guy,
He's holding on to it.
he's a voice actor monster. He's a
Yeah.
legend. You
No,
know?
I think that to me is that's fantastic that he's been able to do it for so long.
Yeah. So cheers to him.
Absolutely. Cheers to Roger. We get Melissa, right? Carrera,
Melissa Carrera.
right? Was that the name?
I think so. We could be wrong.
That
The
was
older sister.
So she was the oldest sister that is returning from the first film. So we have 4 returning main characters. I think her name is Melissa. Then we have Jenna Ortega, who plays. Is her name Sam?
In the movie? Oh, I don't remember. But
So
this is the woman, or
this is the actress who has recently made it really big playing
Wednesday on
Netflix.
Netflix? Yeah,
Yeah.
Netflix.
I'm not sure what else she's done prior to Scream 5. I'm sure she has some acting credits somewhere, and like she had a an average sized role, I think, in that film. In Scream 5.
Yeah.
I think in this film, she's really involved in this movie.
Yeah, because a lot of
more.
people died in Scream 5. And the other two people that came back,
They're the brother and sister.
the brother and sister,
Yep.
who the brother, I think, probably should have died in the last
In
movie.
that film. And we'll talk about if he should have done it in this movie, too.
Because, I mean, I think one of the biggest suspensions of disbelief that you have to kind of hold on to for Scream 5 and Scream 6 is that, like people that probably should die from these big multiple stab wounds won't.
You can live.
It's just
It's a flesh wound.
It's just a flesh wound. I'm going to cut right to the chase. There's one scene where the Asian girl is being gutted, I mean, the knife goes in,
Oh, and they go up.
and the guy's going up. So it's not
Yeah.
like it's not like a point incision. It's like in
and
and
then
up.
yeah.
You're parting. You know,
Yeah, the
that's
abdominal cavity.
yeah,
You're going right
yeah.
through it.
You're doing an autopsy. Like on a live person. I mean, she's dead.
She should have bled out.
She should have hit the ground.
Yeah.
By the time the guy took the knife out, he should have took the knife out, and she should have been already unconscious and hit the ground.
Yeah.
Like that was. I mean, it's different. One stab versus multiple stabs. But
Yeah.
when you go in and do Harry Carry on somebody, you're dead. So
Yeah, that one comes a little bit down the line, but that was a little bit of a shocker. Obviously, there's always like disbelief in these films, but the one thing they always manage to do is they really try to talk about franchises, prior horror franchises, and the tropes in these films, and what and like how it's relating to their circumstances.
yeah, well, Scream is notorious for, and always has been, I think, even from its inception, in terms of trying to explain itself in the terms of what's happening within the movie,
Within the film.
within the logic and confines of the
Horror films.
slasher genre.
Yeah.
You know,
and
and to a certain degree, I think that's fun and it makes sense.
oh, I do too.
But
I think it's hysterical how
right.
like they try to relate it to whatever's going on in their
Yeah.
particular situation.
But
And they talk about some of these. They always bring up typically like your Halloween, your Friday the 13th, your Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
And then they bring in some other. I don't want to say like B horror films, but definitely not so much your well knowns, like some of your
Right.
cult classics.
Yeah, okay.
That they'll talk about.
Sometimes I'll throw that in like in a poster somewhere too.
Yeah.
But
The one nice thing about this film, which I liked, the way it started out was completely different than any other Scream film
okay,
that they've done.
okay, in
Okay.
what way?
So in every Scream film, there's always an initial kill that shows his ghost face.
Okay.
Okay. That is no different from this film. That happens. There's a college professor who's basically met someone, it seems on a dating app, and they're trying to like meet up at this bar. They end up luring this woman outside into an alleyway,
alley.
and they just end up killing her. And the one thing that they did was as soon as the murder was done, Ghostface takes off the mask. And it's this kid, it's just this college kid.
Yeah,
And you're like, well, that's different.
that's the kid
That's a kid from
from
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Yeah,
who
he plays,
somebody. Plays one of Peter Parker's friends.
Yes.
Oh my God,
I forget
not
which
Flash-
one.
Not
Yeah,
Flash.
Flash Thompson.
Plays,
Yeah, plays Flash.
Flash Thompson in the most
And
recent.
the most recent in the Tom Holland films.
Yeah.
So he is Ghostface, and you're like, wow, that's different. Like you never see that happen. And we end up following him back
Yeah.
to his apartment, and he was watching a horror movie. Did
Yeah.
you remember what it was?
No, I don't.
Okay. So he is sitting down watching film. He's waiting for his roommate to come home.
Wait, do you remember what it was?
No, I don't. Off the top of
Oh,
my
I
head,
thought you were
don't.
going to tell me.
So they're watching. I'm sorry, I forget what they're watching, but he's now talking to his buddy on the phone, and it's Ghostface, right? In the modulator voice.
Right. Well, it's Roger Jackson. I'm curious.
It's Roger Jackson.
I'm curious if it's Roger Jackson with a specific modulator, or
Or
is that just the
how
way
he manipulates his voice?
how he can sound like that?
Yeah. That's a good question. And so he's talking to him, and basically it sounded like this character and his roommate had planned to kill this teacher.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like they were talking about how great it was going to be. There's definitely stab, I think, posters around
Yes.
this apartment. There are multiple ghost face memorabilia
In the apartment.
in the apartment, I think.
Yeah, so
like
they're-
costumes that they purchased that are in the closet.
Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So this was obviously like his first big kill, and he's like really excited, and how he's describing his the emotional state he went through and what it was like physically to do it. And then all of a sudden he realizes that it's not his roommate that he's talking to, and he's going around this whole apartment looking, and finally finds his roommate.
His roommate
in the fridge.
dead,
I like-
cut up into pieces in the refrigerator.
I like that they played hot and cold.
Yeah.
That was fun. And then, of course, this guy gets killed. and that's how the movie starts. So these two almost like copycats for
He
Ghostface,
gets
and
he gets killed by like an Uber Ghostface.
right,
Like yeah,
like the real
yeah.
ghost,
Because apparently
a real
one would
Ghostface,
assume that there probably are copycats.
right? Which there have been
You
throughout
know,
the franchise. That's what they've done,
whether they're acolytes or fans or just but
right?
it's
And
interesting.
these were just fans, and these guys were also they knew Richie, and Richie was the boyfriend from Scream 5
Right. Well, but
who
also,
helped
not oddly
commit.
enough, they, or at least one of them, was a student
Yes,
in the class of the teacher they killed,
yeah.
which is kind of messed
Well, because I
up.
think like she failed him or she gave him like a bad grade, and he was like pissed about it.
Yeah.
So he ended up killing her.
But it's actually kind of scary. Like when you look at the way they present these college kids, where it's like, I'm going to become, a murderer.
Right.
I'm a big fan of whatever of this stuff, and
The
it's
horror
like,
genre.
and it's like, you really hope that nobody watching these films
Actually does get
is
ideas.
going like, wow, I could do
Start
that.
taking
I could
notes.
do that. That's a little scary.
What is that? Art imitating art, imitating life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So that was like a really interesting way of starting the whole thing off. And then we got to see our main heroes. Now everything is out of it. We're no longer in Woodsboro. We are now in New York City,
Yes, in Manhattan.
which you know what was a really good change of pace. I actually thought that was well done.
Well, you know what? A change in location, I think, was needed to
Well, they did. They kind of
just
did
do a
that, I
little
think, in
differently.
Scream 2, because in Scream 2, Neve Campbell's character is away at college,
Oh,
and that's
you're going back way back. No, no, no.
and that's not Woodsboro.
Yeah. Now,
But
that being said, a scenario like, Friday the 13th, part 111, Jason Takes Manhattan, I don't know
taking them out of Camp Crystal Lake.
I don't necessarily know that was, the life-saving boost to the
Well, seeing as
series.
how that was one of the last ones, and it was like one of
Yeah.
the worst in the
Yeah.
franchise.
Yeah.
But this, so eventually, we catch up with our four main characters, and there's a party that's going on, and the the main character, Melissa, she ends up finding out that her sister is at the party,
Yeah.
right? And so she gets pissed. It's a frat party, so she's
Right.
upset.
She's getting drunk and
So they
she's
get
feeling
there,
loose.
and she almost went upstairs with one of these frat boys.
Who's a real jerk.
Yeah, he's being like an absolute jerk to her,
And you
and
hope you hope this guy gets killed.
like you actually hope Ghostface shows up and kills
Kills
this
this
guy.
because he's a doof.
And then you can see like one of the twins ends up liking the sister.
Yeah, and I
But
like that guy.
I do too. The brother, I like the brother.
Oh,
a lot.
are they twins? Like,
Aren't they twins?
I don't know. They might be. They might be
I think
same
they-
age.
I think they are.
I like
think-
him.
I think they're
He's
twins.
like he's a good, strong character.
Yeah.
and I'm glad like he doesn't die, even though like he should.
He
be
should
dead.
have, but
He
no,
should
I
have died
agree.
a number of times.
So one of the things that I thought this film did well with is playing off of real world scenarios in regards to social media. So
Which is happening a lot in a lot of movies.
yes, you're really seeing social media introduced into films a lot more because that really it's real
Well,
life nowadays.
it is. That is just the reality that we live in.
That is, and so it's hard to like escape that on like what would happen if these people who were involved in these murders in one town went somewhere like a major city to a big college, and all these kids on campus that use social media knew who they were
And the information would spread like wildfire.
instantaneously.
It's the whole thing. Like, back in the day, you would plan a party at your house and, you'd call up your friends and they'd all show up. Today, you plan a party at your house, 5 people show up, they put something on social media, and within 20 minutes, about 100 people show up. Everything, it's
just multiplied.
It's everything is like exponential. It spreads and everything happens a lot faster. Information is instantaneous. So yeah, so everybody knows.
So something that we find out early on in this at this particular time is that there is a scenario on social media where they are making it out as if Melissa's character was the one who killed her ex-boyfriend and the other crazy girl that was with him.
Yeah, you figure like, conspiracy theory and all
Right.
that
And it's
stuff.
like a major like conspiracy theory that basically just took off because it's social media
Right.
and everyone assumes that it's true and it
Right.
just spread like
Right. And
wildfire.
keep in mind, not everybody looking at this stuff on social media is necessarily applying the required amount of logic it would
Of
take to
course.
make a reasonable deduction as
Right.
to what really is and isn't
But
true. People just
what's terrible is that like it's like these
boom.
people that are just reading it and then just assuming that it's true because they read it and of course because it's on the internet.
Right. Right.
And that really is the assumption. Like this these two girls just passed Melissa at one point as they're walking by each other and just said like, you know what you did or something like that and like threw like water or something at her. And so it's like it's just like this stigma now that she has to live with wherever she goes. And she's
Right.
talking to a therapist about it.
Right. Well,
We see her with
keep
her
in,
therapist.
keep in mind, even though they know that a lot of the people that are following this stuff is nonsense, they're not, they're idiots. It's still the ramifications
Yes.
of the negative social media is real and impactful.
Right.
It all plays into,
It's the psychological toll
yeah,
on this
like,
person.
you have these people that, are so worried about their, online presence. It's like they can't handle it.
Right.
Like, and the worst scenario is, people, that actually commit suicide.
Right. That
This is like I said,
take it to such a dangerous place.
this is the reality. Like the supposed the perception
Perception.
the
Yeah.
perception of you online
Right.
is sometimes can be more real
And for the majority
than the truth.
And for the majority of people their footprint is so small, but for this
Yeah.
film these characters they were involved in something that was so major, such a large a big story and it gets brought they can't escape it.
Yeah.
Because you can't delete it. So once it's there online, like you can't get it back. You can't scrub it. You can't erase it. It's just there
you
forever.
can't turn back time.
So,
But I found it interesting though that they would like later on in the movie they bring up like her they use it against her reaction to the people that
Yes.
do water on her, and I was almost like I'm like, why is that a negative? Like some stupid bitch threw
Because-
water at me and I got mad
because
like
they're not
that's
show-
reasonable.
but they're not showing that part.
Oh, so it was edited.
It's like they cut like the part that they show is they show her reaction
Right.
after the fact,
Right, but
not leading leading up to it.
I feel like when they show that to her, she's like, oh, like she's self-conscious about it. Whereas
Yeah.
I would have been like mad and saying, you didn't show what started. Like, I was justified, and
Well, I think that was something where like I think they left that out to push the story,
Yeah.
right, to push that aspect of the plot, right, with what she's dealing with. But yes, I think in reality it would have been like, well, you don't show this part where I was provoked. Not to mention, there's 3 other witnesses with me that were there,
Yeah.
that all saw what happened.
and they could have weighed in and said, well,
Right.
this is what really happened.
Right.
But I was like, I was glad. Like somebody comes up to me, I don't care what you think. You
Well, you're gonna
douse me
stand up for
with
yourself.
water. I'm going to get you right. I'm going to stand up for myself. I'm going to
Yeah.
cower in the corner and get wet.
And-
No.
And so she has this conversation she talks to her therapist, and
Oh, and I feel bad for this guy.
this this guy's just doing his job.
It's
But I mean, we won't even get to that part yet. Like, it's just a matter of like she's talking with him and almost confesses that she almost enjoyed what she did to Richie, and that's one of the
Yeah.
parts that she is afraid to talk about out loud because she doesn't want to turn into her father,
right. Who is Skeet Ulrich?
right? Which was Billy Loomis,
Right.
in
One of the
original killers
right.
from Scream 1, right? It's his daughter, and obviously the therapist, I believe, knows this,
Or should.
or should, right? And like you start seeing him like take these notes down, and it's almost like he starts saying something like, if did he say like if you're a threat or something like that, I have to report it.
Yeah.
Right. So there's some mention of that, and so all of a sudden you're like, oh wow, like this guy's actually like really gonna.
Yeah, but there was a point there where he was almost like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to say it was like a dick move, but like when she started to get like, he's pushing her to open
open
up.
up.
And when she opens up with the cold hard truth, and like
He then is like,
he's
oh,
almost
well,
like,
if you're telling me this, I've got to report this.
no, but he was more along the lines of, it was like he didn't want to do it anymore. He was like, oh, now it's all serious. Like I felt, I thought there
Oh,
was
like it was too much.
yeah, it was too much, and he was like, you know what, this is over my head,
Yeah.
So I almost feel like he was distancing himself from the patient doctor relationship and didn't want anything to do with it. And I think she felt
You're not going to help me.
like what the hell, you're not going to help me.
Yeah.
So he was a little bit, like, in my opinion, unprofessional.
No, you know what?
in
I
that
think
respect.
now that you mention it like that, no, I think you're absolutely right. I think that's pretty.
Because I
spot
remember
on.
going like, oh, what a jerk! Like, like you
Right.
get the guy to open, you get the person to open up, and then they open up to you. That's when they're the most.
Right,
That's
you're
when
trying
they're
to
the
help.
most vulnerable.
You're trying to
and
help
that's
her.
when you try to help. You don't back away.
No,
Like, this
that's
is your
true.
freaking job. Like, this is this is what you do. It's not,
And I think in any character that you're meeting in a Scream film, the first thing you're thinking of is, could this person be the killer?
Oh yeah.
Right. So like when this guy first starts chatting, I'm like, oh, that'd be interesting if like
If the psychiatrist
if
was the
psychiatrist was, and he's like thinking, and he's just getting all her little tidbits and information of how she thinks and gets into her psychologically, and then breaks her down psychologically, and then terrorizes her. And then hears about how he terrorizes her.
Yeah.
If that were to continue, that doesn't happen. But like my wheels start turning as I'm watching this, thinking to myself, "Oh my gosh, like where are they going to go with this guy?" He doesn't last much longer though. So what we start to see is
Yeah. So wait. So yes.
well,
yeah.
the killers
Well,
get
no. Well, how the
they
psychiatrist
find-
gets killed. How the psychiatrist gets killed is
Yeah.
like a knife through the steel grate door, which if you really think about it, like if he just stood a little bit further back,
Right, the
he
knife's
never
not
would-
gonna get him.
It's just like everything just works out perfectly for Ghostface. It's like I'm here to kill
And not-
you,
and not to
I'm
mention,
going to do it. And even though you're behind a locked steel grate door, I'm going to get you. And
No,
and it's like,
it seems like it's like near Halloween or something like that, because there's multiple people dressed up at different times over the course of this movie, which takes place probably over like a day or two.
yeah, no, I think it does take place during Halloween.
It's like-
because
it's
a lot
gotta
of
be-
people are in costume.
It's got to be right near there. And one of the things that happens is once the two imposters are found in their apartment dead, all of a sudden, Ghostface costumes start selling like crazy again.
Which, in all honesty, would be
That's exactly what would happen.
That's totally what would happen.
Absolutely. Like I found that is to me 100% what would happen. People would see that like, oh my god, I got to dress up like this.
Yeah, I mean, like if one person is in charge of the ghost face costume, like that's $1 million idea. That guy,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
he's like, I'm gonna make $1 million. I'm a millionaire. That guy's a millionaire because you know how many ghost face costumes you see in the
yeah.
course of the movie.
Yep.
Multiply that by America.
Just America alone.
Well, first multiply
Not-
that by the rest of New York City, and then the rest of America.
Right. All over these towns, they're
Oh,
dressing
yeah.
up as this character.
Yeah.
So, and now all of a sudden, the core four, as they call themselves, which I thought was kind of funny, how they gave themselves a nickname, they start seeing Ghostface everywhere, and then finally we get the first phone call. Now, I think one of the first phone calls, I believe, is from Richie's phone number. Right? The former boyfriend.
Yes. Yes.
So, and it's like, she's like, oh my God, I never deleted him out of my phone. Which, really? You wouldn't delete the guy who tried to kill you? You wouldn't like see that number and be like, "Pff, get the
Some
number out.
people hold on to memorabilia. I don't know.
I don't even think it was that. She said like she never got it's like she like forgot to do it or like
Yeah.
never got around to it. I don't know. That I don't know if I believe that one as much. But she picked up the phone and it's like, you're this, obviously it's not Richie, right? So she's just trying to figure out what's happening and she's like, yeah, that didn't work out so well for like the last guy. And then of course the people start going down left and right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, kind of early on, I remember going to Chris and saying, "I'm going to give you my guesses over who I
We
think."
played this game.
Yeah. Who because you gotta do it early enough before people start dropping off. And I think my guesses for which at that point
No, hold on a second. So the two of them had this one roommate this one girl who's there, and I don't know if she's a part of like their film class or anything like that.
I'm not sure.
But her father is a police detective on the New York police force.
Right.
And he is involved in the murder of the two imposter ghost faces.
Right.
And finds
Driver's
the
license.
driver's license of Melissa's character, of the older sister. And that's kind of how they bring her in and kind of start finding out, like, what, like, she gets involved in becomes a person of interest in the investigation. And of course, given her history, they told her, well, you can't go anywhere. And so, you go ahead now. What you were saying?
Yeah. So, at one point I leaned over to Chris and I said, all right, I'm going to give you my guess as to who the bad guys are. And I went with the blonde FBI agent.
Which was Hayden Panettiere, who was reprising her role from Scream 4.
Okay, right.
Who she was in Scream 4. She was in high school. She was in a film class with a couple of these other guys. And she almost dies. She gets stabbed. You think she's dead, and I think she actually does. And then, of course, she survives at the end of the movie.
And the other person I think I guessed was the boyfriend, like who lived in the other building.
Right, now this is the main character, Melissa. This is boyfriend who lived in the next building over.
Yeah, who's someone who she becomes romantically involved with.
Because let's be real, most of the time in these Scream films, it's usually the boyfriend.
Yeah. So I think I went with him. I think that's who I said. But and I was wrong on both counts. However, there was a point where it looked like I was going to be right with the FBI agent, but it turned out not to be.
We'll get into that in a little bit.
I was like, I called it. I'm like, because that was a tough guess, like, because.
Well, I think the best part about these films is that there's so many people that they come into interaction with, and you keep thinking every single time, okay, could this person be it? And then whenever Ghostface is around, you're like, okay, who's missing from the key group, right? Like who's missing?
Yeah. Because that's always been the red herring with all the screamers. It's the whole red herring is that it's almost always been two killers, and when one person is attacking as the killer, the other one is there going, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god,
Yeah.
and then they keep rotating. So it
throws you off.
It throws you off.
Yeah, and the one really interesting piece that they really dive into in this is there is a whole layer of Ghostface memorabilia in this like rundown movie theater.
Yeah, like
that they come into contact with. It's almost like halfway through the film.
Ridiculous amount.
And it's almost like it's like a Ghostface museum, because it's like it's like most piece from like crime scenes, costumes from each of the killers, and the pattern that starts happening is whenever there's a killing that takes place, a ghost face mask is left at the scene.
And it's a ghost face mask from a particular movie.
From one of the previous killers.
So if you're like a Scream fanatic, which I'm not, but if you are, and like you really like the films inside out, each one and this and that, you're really gonna appreciate.
I do too. The level of detail that they went into for each of these killers. I actually thought that was genius. I actually really enjoyed the detail that they went into in backtracking. Okay, it's kind of like, and they keep talking about it's leading to something, because first it's like the last, I guess it was like DNA left on the mask and everything.
I appreciated the level of detail, but I couldn't appreciate the details because I don't know the Scream franchise in and out. But I'm sitting like, man, somebody is sitting there going, yep, oh yeah, like
the Easter eggs in this for the Scream franchise was out of control with the different pieces of memorabilia that were left around, and especially when they get into the lair, all these different pieces from the killings from the different sets just pop up, and some of them are under glass, some of them are being displayed. The stage with all of the Ghostface costumes was amazing. Like I thought that was really cool, and it was really with the murder weapons. Like that was great.
It makes you think though, like how do you top that in Scream 7? Like this is like
this could have been like the culmination.
This was like the culmination, retrospective, this and that, and then it's like But you know what? Like, almost every franchise movie, a lot of them, you're like, wow, this is probably the end. But it's not. Like we're seeing, the previews for the next Transformers movie. Like
Well, that's
like
what it's.
there's so many of them when you think like,
But the
this
money's
is
in
the end. This is the end.
the money's in the franchises
Well, I
now.
know,
It's to
but
keep
it's
these
never the
worlds.
end. I mean, they could just keep making Transformers movies
It's to keep
forever.
the franchises
They
going.
can keep making Scream movies
But they were smart
forever.
in going with a new young cast
Yes.
and following them around.
Yeah, I was really hoping Courtney Cox was going to get killed so they could completely shake off the coattails of the past and be like, done, we're done.
So I mean, it's jumping a little ahead, but I mean, so
I honestly feel that Scream 5 should have been the complete transition. The old and the new, and now we're going to the new, and then it's like, well, no, maybe, here's Neve Campbell back. All right, whatever.
well, Neve wasn't in this one. Are you talking about Courtney Cox or being Neve's being in five?
No, I'm talking about Courtney Cox.
Okay, okay.
I'm talking about Courtney Cox. Neve Campbell wasn't in this at all.
No, so Neve Campbell.
Courtney Cox was in it, and it's like I just felt like she should have been gone. Like
So
everything should have ended with the old cast in Scream 5.
Neve
in my
Campbell.
opinion.
So once the killings start and the sisters kind of get out of jail, like after they're the prime suspect, all the police are there, right? I mean, I'm sorry, not the police. All the reporters are there, and of course, Gail shows up, and they all the and in the previous film, it's everyone like Gail helps them. Like it's Gail's there at the end when all the killings taking place.
Yeah, and I
So-
thought that was a good swan song for her.
Absolutely. And what ends up happening is all of a sudden, Melissa's character gets really pissed at her. Like, you wrote a book about everything that happened. You weren't supposed to write a book. That's about us. And it mimics the first film in how Courtney Cox wrote a book about Sydney's mother dying. And then she also wrote the book that led to the Stab movies
Okay.
within the franchise, right?
See, this is know
Yeah.
the franchise better than I do.
So for me it's you're seeing this repetition occur, and instead of Melissa going and hitting Courtney Cox like Sydney does in the first film, her younger sister Sam, or I think it's Jenna Ortega, punches her instead.
Yeah.
And hits her, and it was like, ooh, that was nice. Like they're throwing these little tidbits at you from the prior films, like these little callbacks. And I thought that was really smart to do it in a slightly different way. And there's a mention of Sydney, and that Sydney is basically gone into hiding with her. I think she has a child. I think it's like I don't know. I think it was her son and her husband. And Courtney Cox like makes that clear that or it was, I don't know if it was Courtney or Melissa who said it, but that Sydney's in hiding. So she's taken out of play. And for all intents and purposes, Neve Campbell. There was contract negotiations that just didn't go over well. The offer that they were giving Neve Campbell, to Neve was, which she thought it was too low for someone like her who was a legacy character, and it just didn't work out. So that's that. But Courtney, Gail, of course, comes into the fold and kind of starts working her way into the group a little bit. But there's this great scene where they're all locked down together, the core four, in the apartment, and all of a sudden they get a call from within the apartment, and they find out that Ghostface is in the apartment, and all of a sudden he's in the roommate's room.
Yeah.
And they go in there, and of course the roommate's dead.
Right.
And this is when the one girlfriend of one of the twins gets sliced.
The Asian girl.
There you go. She gets cut, and they basically trap Ghostface in like a bathroom or something like that. And he's trying to get out, and they put this piece of furniture there. The other girl gets slashed herself, and now they have to basically cross over to the boyfriend's apartment
With a ladder.
with a ladder. They
Going
have to
across
a building, like an
an
alleyway.
and it's a couple of stories up.
Yeah, and so you're like, okay. So of course, like the two main girls, they get across. The brother gets across, and now you're looking at then the sister gets across, and now all of a sudden it's the
last person.
girlfriend,
Yeah.
who, in all intents and purposes, she should have just been dead. Like there's no way she should have been alive this long. She should have went into shock, and she should have died.
Oh, yeah.
But for dramatic purposes,
Let's
we're going to keep her alive.
so that way
We can do this
have a
really
great
cool death scene.
Really, yeah.
So she basically starts climbing the ledge. As soon as you saw that, like she's going out onto the ledge, you're like, okay, this is how she's going to die. Ghostface gets through, takes the ladder and
shaking the
shimmies it
ladder.
up, and then boom,
And
just falls
she
down.
falls a couple of stories and like hits her
Hits the
head on the
dumpster.
side of a dumpster.
Oh, I mean,
And it's
it's a
just like, oh,
like a
man.
gruesome death when like she is impaled by the dumpster almost. It's oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
it's wincing. Like
Oh,
it's
you oh
wincing.
yeah,
You're
you're
just
like
like,
ooh.
oh man,
Yeah,
really?
but so that's how that one happens. So the police detective goes, sees that his daughter's been killed. He is completely distraught, and he happens to mention that now he's lost both of his kids.
Right.
Right, that his son had died in some previous previous event that you don't really hear about. It's just that he
You
died.
just know that like the roommate has like a dead brother, so
Yes,
right. The
yes.
father's got a dead son. Blah blah
Yep.
blah.
So that's kind of how that all went down, and that's kind of when Gail finds out about the museum, right? The movie theater, who it was rented through, and all this and that.
Well, they Gail
Yeah,
is
Courtney Cox.
Courtney Cox. She's the one who finds the
She finds it.
the lair.
Yeah.
Through investigative reporting, blah blah blah.
Yeah, and she's like, "This is why I'm still like a good journalist," or something like
it
that.
turns out that on record it appears that the lair was owned or rented out by
Richie.
the two guys,
Oh yeah. The two guys, yes.
the two guys that were killed in the
Two
beginning
roommates,
of the movie.
the two like imposter.
Yeah.
I'll call them the imposter.
Yeah,
Ghostface killers. And then I think they do relate it somehow to Richie, that they were classmates or something like that.
And that was one of the reasons why I thought it was the FBI agent, because I feel like,
Well, because Gail makes a note of this, like, why didn't you figure this out?
yeah,
Like
right,
it's just financials that
yeah,
I was
why,
able to
right.
find.
And I'm like, oh, she didn't figure it out because she's behind it, and now she's upset that like her lair got outed.
Right. Now that everyone knows where it
Yeah.
is.
So in my head, I was like, ooh, that's why I thought it was her.
Yeah, and it's it was just such a the layer itself is just so cool. I just as a Scream fan, like I really enjoyed seeing that part of it. But as the story starts to progress a little bit more, it's Gail's turn to get in danger, of course. Mm-hmm. And now when that happens to her, she ends up holding her own for a little bit.
Yeah. Well, her boyfriend,
Oh, he gets killed.
he gets
he gets killed right away.
This guy gets the crap beat out of him, and he does.
Yeah.
Feel bad for him.
Yep. And then Ghostface starts going after Courtney Cox.
Yeah, but you know what? Not for nothing. She gets stabbed quite a bit too.
She gets slashed a couple times, and then in the end, she gets stabbed.
Yeah,
a couple times.
And I'm like not for nothing. Like,
Well, I'm next to my nephew, and my
I
nephew's
think-
looking over, like, oh, I guess that's her, and I'm like, no way. I was like, they're not going to kill her.
no, they're not going to kill
I
her.
says,
But you know what?
Going to kill her.
It should have been fatal. Like that was another scenario where it's like I'm like,
there was-
they're displaying fatal, because not for nothing. In really all the other horror franchises, the fatal looking wounds are fatal. You know what I mean? When Jason Voorhees kills someone, they're dead. When Michael Myers killed someone, they're freaking dead for the most part. Almost always, with the exception of maybe, Jamie Lee Curtis in the final trilogy, where she probably should have died when she went to
Right,
surgery.
she stayed.
But almost everybody else dies. The same thing with like Freddy Krueger. Like, all these people, the people that, are the victim of these guys, like,
Yeah, they die.
you watch them, they go, oh, you're dead, and you're dead. You watch them on screen, they get killed, and they're killed.
But
they,
now
they,
it's-
they don't just sit there and walk away and go, oh, like they're
but now
they're
it's
freaking dead.
But now it's like, unless it's just one of those things like, unless you get decapitated, like or like a bullet through the head.
Yeah.
I don't believe you're dead.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a little bit, to me. It's a little. I mean, it's a little deflating.
Well, it is because it's like no matter what, you're like, all right, well, they're gonna probably survive this.
Yeah, it's like.
But I think they had to make it look bad for her.
Yeah.
But the paramedics come in right?
It's cosmetic slasher. It's just like, it's
Well, the paramedics come in and they're like, "Oh, we still have a faint heartbeat. Like,
Yeah.
you still have a faint pulse."
Yeah, okay.
So it's like, all right, it's like Gail's gonna live. I said it right before the paramedics even got there. Like, they're like, "Oh wow, I guess she's really dead. Like, they're killing this one off now. There's only, two legacy characters are dead." And I'm like, "Nah, she's gonna survive this."
and that's what, and I'll be all honestly, that's what they needed to do. They needed to kill off a second legacy character, and it's like, and slowly dissociate, because I'll be honest with you, like, it gets boring after a while if you keep pulling in these older characters.
Well,
That, like, it's like, like, pass the torch already.
Well, but the thing is
Give
too,
them a
like,
good sending out, because
right.
Dewey
Do we get a good send?
got a good send out, and you're
did.
done with him. Okay, so this should have been Courtney Cox's send out.
Part of it too is with how many times can something like this happen to a group of people
Yeah,
where it's the same thing over and over again.
right. Because ultimately, it's not the same killer over and over again. So they
Right.
they bridged. God bless you. They bridged this movie with the last movie by making the killer in the last movie is related to the killers in this movie, and it's like a revenge thing against the people that were
Which
involved in the
will-
last movie.
which
So
we're gonna-
that kind of made sense.
Which I want to get into a little bit more toward,
Yeah.
once we like reveal the ending. I want to talk about that.
Like that was a good bridge.
Yeah.
Like, like, okay, I get that now.
Well, after Courtney's death, Melissa basically figures out, she's like, okay, I know how to stop, and like they basically have to trap Ghostface inside the movie theater, and then just kill him.
Yeah.
Because then even the cop is like let's kill him, let's take him out,
Mm.
right? The detective. So they come up with this whole plan, and they involve Hayden Panettiere's character, the FBI,
Yeah,
as
the
an
FBI.
FBI agent. They involve her. The core four are like ready for this, and they all have their plans. So they're all trying to get onto this train, and they get separated.
Which was annoying. But
Oh, and there's
okay.
this other guy their other friend that,
Right.
that showed up. He's another student at the school. He's kind of with them right now. He's on this whole thing. So they all get on this. They get on two separate trains, unfortunately. And one of the twins, the sister, her and this one guy get on the train together. And she doesn't trust him. She's basically just like, no, until I know you more, like, no, you're a possible killer. You're a possible ghost face. And she like keeps, it's like she's saying it to his face, and like his texting everyone like, yeah, I'm with possible ghost faced here, like on the train. And then on Melissa's train there are like multiple people in costume, right? And of course there's like one, if not two, ghost faces that are there, and this one guy keeps like looking at her.
But that being said, when you're in costume, you don't know if they're really looking at you.
You can't tell.
You could.
They could be looking like right past you.
You
Like,
could. Your face could be this way, but your eyes could be to the left or to the right. So it's very deceiving. you know.
Yeah.
But it's known to be that, like, are they looking at me or not? That's the suspense.
like that's the suspense that keeps
Yeah.
building up and building up. And I thought they did a really nice job with that in multiple scenes where they built up the suspense, getting to the point. Like, is this person really going to come out and kill me or not? And I think, and then on their train, I don't think anything happens. Like, the guy gets off at the next stop,
Yeah.
right? Like he gets off and leaves. Then
Well, on the other train.
on the other train, on the sisters, she starts to like see something.
Yeah. Well,
Right?
and
oh,
to
and,
me,
then, and the lights keep going on and off on
See,
the train.
this scene. The whole scene to me was, it played very well, but it was like, you got to sit there and say, this doesn't make any sense, because one, when you're on a train, it is very common that the lights never go out.
Correct.
So
It's not like the 1970s
Yeah.
on New York subway.
So all right, okay, so the lights are going out. One, you would have no way of knowing that. You don't know how long they're going to be out for. Like you can't plan an attack
Right.
based on
a possibility.
the randomness of the lights going on and off, which may not even be going on and off at all.
Yeah.
So it's almost like someone's like, it's like, like there's the person, it's light, and then the lights go out, and then he moves somewhere else, and there he is when the lights go on. Like he doesn't know when it's gonna happen. You're like, so to me, I'm like, all right, let's just go with it because it looks good. But if you really think about it, it's like come on, and it's like, so apparently whoever was on the train was either the bad guy already on the train, and how could you possibly predict that in advance? Or you're one of the people in part of the group,
Right.
and you're really the killer and nobody knows it yet. And while you were on the train, when the lights went out, you put on a ghost face costume,
Right.
did some mayhem, and then took it off.
Which didn't
and got
happen
away
because we
with
kept
it. I'm
seeing.
like, come on. I'm like,
So we kept.
all right, come on.
So we kept seeing the other friend on the train.
Yeah.
The whole time. So like we knew it wasn't him. Like you knew at that point in time, like that's not him because he's there, and he rushes over to her. So she gets stabbed, right? And she gets stabbed kind of bad a couple times. And again, this is one of those where it looks like in most other films, she's probably going to die. So he rushes over to her and checks on her, and then eventually they get he's screaming for, I think he's screaming for a doctor, right? Paramedics.
Yeah.
He's screaming for someone. So they come and they take her, they get her out. And now at this point in time, the rest of the crew, they're at the theater. They're basically there, and they're finding everything out. And so before they enact the final, before they all start heading into the movie theater, Melissa basically looks at her boyfriend and was like, "You can't come in."
Yeah, we don't trust you yet.
Yeah, it was kind of one of those things where like I don't think it's you, but it could be you.
Yeah.
So you got to stay out here. And you just watch who comes in, right? So, and at this point, like, there's still a decent possibility that it could be him.
Yeah, he was high on my list.
Because you're thinking like, all right, it's got to be more than two people. Because in just about every single Scream film, it's been at least
right.
It's
not for
been
nothing,
two people.
he was a big guy.
Yeah,
Like, okay, so one of the things you got to, it's like
you have to physically be
almost
able.
all of these. Well, in this movie, like the physical feats that people were doing were pretty, like the Ghostface feats.
Yeah.
Like what they were doing, like they were like, strong guys and strong people. And sometimes it became a little odd though, because it's like all of a sudden, like now it's like a big thing for like women in film, like kicking butt, and it's like 3 of the 4 core 4 are women,
Right.
and like quite a bit, they're able to hold their own in physical combat against these characters, and you got to assume that at least one, if not more of them, are like some big, strong male guys, especially what you've been seeing them doing, and you almost got to sit there and say like at some point the girl's not going to be able to kick Ghostface's ass. Like it's
Well, depending on which.
it could be.
So-
but it's like they hold their own pretty well against what would almost you would consider to be like how well they would be realistically be able to fight back.
Well, fight or flight
to
response.
to a certain point.
Fight or flight response.
Yeah.
A rush of adrenaline.
Now there was one scene earlier on that we forgot about when Ghostface chases the kids into the candy store on the corner candy store.
Does he chase him in there, or they just run in there?
Well, they run in there and he follows them in.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's like another one of these things where it's like, all right, I'm a killer Ghostface, and I'm just gonna, chase these people no matter where they go. Well, now you're in a store.
But it's like
With other
around
people.
But again, it's around, if it is around Halloween or something like that, it's like you're just assuming that this is a guy in a costume.
True, but now you're in the store, and there's a lot of other people in the store, and you're just doing what you're doing. And the one part that annoyed me was like the guy behind the counter has got a shotgun, and he's behind Ghostface, and Ghostface has already, I think, killed somebody. Like it's
in the store.
Yeah, in the store.
Yeah.
It's obviously a menacing scenario where people need to be defended and action needs to be taken, and this guy's got the gun on Ghostface's back. and all you got to do is pull the trigger and blow his ass away. And instead, he's like, "Hey, you!" You know, Ghostface turns around, sees he's about to get shot, ducks out of the way, boom, fires the shot, misses, eventually, winds up killing the guy.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, Ghostface should have been completely killed.
But then the movie's over.
Well, the thing is, don't put him in that situation where he really should be killed. Make him like, the guy pulls the gun out and, Ghostface saw him do it and cuts his, slices his neck open before he can get it out. But it's like, he's got the drop on him. There are so many scenarios where the ghost faces are able to do exactly what they want to do, when they want to do it, to who they want to do
Yes,
it,
that
uninhibited,
help the film happen.
against all
Yes,
logic and circumstance. It's like,
it pushes the plot.
yeah, no, I get that, but it's like I'm like, oh, he's got him. Yeah, well, he doesn't got. Well, I guess he doesn't got him. Should have had him. I would have had him. I would have. I'm not a big, I'm not a big guy. I love, warning them.
No, you would have given no warning.
Oh, no warning. Just blew his back right out. That would have been it.
So, as we get into the final scene,
The final scene is well, you want to talk about the phone call, the red herring phone call. The cop, once they're inside the lair, waiting for stuff, waiting to pull.
So they basically get in and they basically set a trap for Ghostface that once Ghostface enters in the building, everything locks around him.
Yeah.
Right?
But then they get a phone call from the cop that basically
that
throws the
throws
FBI
a wrench
agent
into the works that
under the bus.
Right, that says like Hayden Panettiere is like no longer, she's on leave from the FBI.
And she's crazy.
She's unstable
Unstable
since these murders happened, and it's starting to like, she's becoming unhinged.
Yeah, and that's when I was like, yes, called it.
Right.
Called the FBI. Went on a limb and called it.
At
on
this
the
point in
FBI
time,
agent.
they're all in there, and they've all started to say that they've all started to spread out to like go to their spots, right? Within the theater to like get ready. And now Hayden Panettiere is not anywhere to be seen. So Melissa's character starts to freak out, like, where is she? And starts to look for her.
Because she got the phone call.
Because she got the phone call, and they can't find her. And then something happens. I'll be
honest with you. I feel like the only way into that lair was not through the front door. I feel like there was a way in
from the top balcony,
from the
right?
top somewhere.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, like, all the bad guys got in, and I don't think they walked through the front door.
No, they didn't.
Like, they just kind of showed up, like, we're here. And it's like, and I even feel like when, later on at the end when they were trying to escape out the top too. So it really wasn't airtight.
So the next thing was that Jenna Ortega is talking with that guy. They're having like a little like romantic like moment with each other. And that's when one of the
younger sister with the twin brother.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're having like their own little
I wanted them to hook up. I was happy with that.
and then Ghostface comes out. And then we see that there's a second Ghostface. Mm-hmm. Right? Was that what happened? Is that what happened then? I actually am a little foggy about when.
I'm a little foggy, but
when that happened. I just remember the two of them came out and they ended up stabbing the hell out of the brother.
Yeah. But it wasn't 3 at that point?
No, it was only 2. And then Jenna Ortega and her sister get out of there, and then they go down to the main floor, and then all of a sudden, that's when Hayden Panettiere comes out. Okay. And she's all like bloodied up. And she's like, oh, someone jumped me, blah, blah, blah. And then they start staying away from her because they think she's the killer, and this is all just a ploy. Mm-hmm. And then the cop comes in, shoots Hayden Panettiere, right? And then she drops down. Mm-hmm. And then the revelation comes of what's really going on.
Right, which is that the cop's son was Richie. And these are his 2 other siblings.
Right. So the other 2 siblings, which this was like the best one of like the better twists.
Yeah, it was a. I think okay, like Vegas odds betting.
Yeah.
So like there's pools over like who's going to win the Oscars.
Yeah.
And like winning, picking the winner of every single Academy Award and getting every single one right is really hard. I would be hard pressed to find
that
anybody
everyone who knew all
in
three.
the audience
Yeah.
that where you said, look, you have a piece of paper,
Yeah.
and you can write down as many names as you want, and you got to tell me who the exact killers are in this movie. And the only people who would have won that pool would have been the people that wrote down those three characters.
Yeah.
And I can tell you right now,
I
I don't know that anybody would have picked those.
I
three
told you,
characters.
like, I had a feeling it was the cop was in on it. I had a feeling somehow he was related to Richie, because usually that's what ends up happening, right? Someone that was involved in the previous killings beforehand. So, like, I had a feeling he was somehow involved. I did not picture the sister.
Well, no, the brother, the other son, he was a prime candidate.
He was a candidate too.
He
But
was
the-
like, he
but
might
what-
have been at the top of a lot of people's lists.
But what threw everything off was when that killing took place on the train, and he's there and and he wasn't involved in it.
Right.
So that's when you know that was the sister.
Right. That had to have been the sister. They had to have been in contact.
So the roommate that was killed between Jenna Ortega and Melissa's roommate, they faked her death.
Right. So
Ghostface that came in was the brother, and the brother in this case is the other student that joins their group in this film.
yeah. And so she's appears to be dead, but isn't.
Right. And the cop gets there, her father gets there
Yeah.
first.
And one of I'll be honest
switches
with
out
you.
the bodies.
I'll be honest with you. That part
Mm-hmm.
I found extremely hard to believe. If there's any so one part that's hard to believe is, like you mentioned before, when the ghost faces were killing the brother, the twin.
Yeah.
I mean, they got him on both sides, and they're just
he's dead to rights.
they're
he's
just
he's got stabbed multiple
he's getting
times.
like multiple stabs from both of them, and the big knives. They're not pocket knives. They're freaking butcher knives. Like he's getting freaking mauled, and it's like, okay, he should be dead. He should be dead. The end. He should be dead. He's freaking dead. He's
We're not talking about him though. We're not talking about him. He's that's later.
He should be dead. So then, so now we're supposed to believe that at a supposed crime scene where someone is killed, that the father, who's in on the whole thing,
Right.
is able to get to that crime scene and swap out dead bodies.
Well, you gotta remember
replace his daughter
Yeah.
with some other dead body
Yes.
that apparently looks like her,
Right.
and claim that, like, I don't know how you accomplish that, unless they had the body stashed unless they had the body stashed in the apartment already.
I don't know about that.
Like, I mean, he didn't.
But he has to.
Like, what did he do? He showed up with a dead body over his shoulder and walked into the building with it. Like, how do you get a dead body in there when nobody's seeing you? Like, what are you doing?
It's a great question.
You know what I'm saying? Like you sit there, like, logistically, how would he accomplish that? And how would you even plan it to the point where, like, he's got to be alone because, like,
No, he doesn't. He doesn't be alone.
he's got to be alone.
His daughter can help him.
Yeah,
His
but
daughter's
this,
obviously
where are
sick
the other
too.
cops?
They're not there yet. That's the point.
He's the only cop there,
That's the point though. Like, he has control over that because he's the lead detective on it.
and he tells everybody to get out.
I don't think he tells. No, he beats everybody there
beats
before
everybody
before
there.
they even get there.
Again, so how does he? How does he get another dead body in that room?
That's a great question.
That's-
Obviously that's like a huge like.
That's a huge question.
that's a huge question.
Like, it says, like, I swapped out the dead bodies at the crime scene.
Yeah.
Fuck is that? Like, are you kidding me? I'm like, really? That's their solution? I'm like, okay, all right. I'm just like,
Listen, suspend
like
disbelief.
like he says that like it makes sense, and everyone goes, oh, that's what he did.
That's how he did it.
Like, oh,
That's how we do it.
I'm like,
Listen, they tried to make it as believable as they could. They might not have done a good job on that part,
No.
but I will say, that was a great twist.
No, it's a great twist that that she was
That she was not really
that she
dead.
was not really dead. No,
Yeah,
that is a great twist. I just have a feeling they could have made it a little bit more believable how that happened, as
yeah,
opposed to it being like, I don't know, an active crime scene where he swapped out. I showed up and swapped out the bodies. He was like, "You're amazing what you could get away with." I'm like, "Yeah, I am
obviously,
amazed.
obviously.
I'm obvious. I am absolutely amazed that you could have gotten away with that. I refuse to believe it."
And it's well, it also becomes apparent too at how much the detective helped make the lair, which was Richie's.
Oh yeah, which in
So
all honesty,
he was so heavily involved in helping and almost enabling Richie to
yeah.
complete this museum.
Well, that was one of the problems that I had with the movie, and this explained that, was how anybody would be able to
Could get
have
because it's
the
evidence.
the access to all of that stuff and get it.
But that
You
partly
can't
what
just get it. But
but
if
that
you're
was
a cop on the inside,
but
I guess
that
you
is
can.
what partially made me think that guy was a
Right.
part of it.
But you know what? But like at least that
Because how
unbelievable thing
else?
that made sense when they explained them. Like, okay,
Because how else?
that
Because
makes
how else would these people have gotten it for?
yeah.
I mean, I know these. I know. I don't know if it was Gail or Hayden Panettiere's character was saying something like, "Oh, you'd be surprised at what money would get you
Or you
with
know
some of
what
these
what
people."
shows up on eBay, but anything on eBay was probably fake.
Right. Not the
And
genuine article.
yeah,
And all these things were the genuine
and they
article.
have like they have. It's not just
It's
it's
not just costumes.
it's all the genuine articles. It's everything.
Yeah.
It's like they have almost
Everything from every
everything that
screen show.
exists. That was kind of cool, but at least you could say, okay, there was a cop, law enforcement person
Right.
involved, and
The fact that they made three killers in this film
that's
was
unprecedented,
was
right?
new. Three.
Yeah,
It's only one time that there was one, and then everyone else, there was every other film there was at least there
was
was
two.
two.
And now
So the fact that there was three killers in this was different, and the fact and it helped to throw you off a little bit.
yeah, no, it definitely threw you off. But I almost felt though that the dad, the cop, was a little bit too like unhinged.
Well, yeah,
I mean, he was really off the deep end. Like he was like maniacal, like almost like Joker, like crazy. Like he's just
well, it's probably like father like son.
yeah.
He knew his son had problems.
Yeah, this guy definitely had problems, but I mean, he was like, I mean, and not for nothing, like his other two kids are dying left and right,
Well, the other,
and
but the
he's
so
almost got no grief or remorse
oh none,
at
none.
like, but the whole thing driving him is
The only thing is
the
the
grief
revenge
is the
is
grief
his,
over
his
his
son.
first son,
Yep.
and these other two kids are all somehow they're all in.
Oh, it's a family business.
It's a whole family thing,
Yep.
but it's almost like I felt like the other two children who both I think they both get killed, and
Yeah.
and he
Oh, in like some in some
it,
good ways too.
it doesn't phase him at all.
No, no.
Which to me I found that to be
they get
a
killed.
shame.
They both get killed in great ways.
Yeah, well, one girl
So the
loses like
daughter-
half her teeth.
Yeah, she gets hit with something.
Yeah.
Really hard. What did she get hit with?
I forget, but it was like
She
she
spit out
winds up
teeth.
losing a whole lot. But eventually,
she gets shot in the
the
head.
shot right in the head.
Yep.
And that's always good. The headshot. That'll kill
Now
you.
I know you're
Yep.
dead.
15 stab wounds to the abdomen.
That's questionable.
That's questionable.
Yeah.
Gunshot to the head.
You're done.
Good.
But the other one was Jenna Ortega when she kills the son.
Yeah.
She stabs him. Either was it in the wasn't in the eye or was it in the
No,
face?
that goes through the mouth.
Yeah, like right through the mouth, something
Right
like
through
that,
the
right?
mouth. And he said like you're gonna die a virgin.
Yeah, which was great because that was a comment earlier in the movie. But like, so
Yeah.
he goes down, and you think he's dead, but he's not dead. So now it comes down to the and then Jenna Ortega. I think she gets knocked out, right? I think she gets knocked out
Yeah, somebody gets
by
knocked out.
by the cop. I think the cop takes her down, and now it's basically the cop and the older sister. And this is what he wanted because she was the one that killed Richie.
Right.
And then he can't find her at first. Then he's looking around, and then he sees the main costume from Scream 1 that Melissa's father wore, that Billy Loomis wore. It's gone. It's missing. So she's wearing it,
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So she puts it on, and now she starts talking. She starts saying all this trash about Richie, the whole time,
Yeah.
like how she did it, and she's like trash talking his son.
Yeah, totally antagonizing him. Yeah, absolutely.
And now he's going nuts. He's shooting all the mannequins because he doesn't know what's going on. And then eventually, she gets him.
Yeah.
And it was.
I forget how she killed him. I forget how he died. No recollection of that whatsoever. Like what was his last moment?
How did she stab him? I don't remember.
I think she did stab him.
Yeah.
I don't think she shot him. I think he was stabbed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, as the younger sister, Jenna Ortega, wakes back up. The two of them are talking, and then the son wakes up and lunges towards them, and they take him out. And I think they used the TV that killed Stu, and they threw it on top of him or something like that.
Something like that.
Hayden Panettiere comes to, and she takes him out.
Good.
Right, Hayden Panettiere wakes up.
Yeah,
and she takes out.
I'm actually glad that her character wasn't killed.
Me too.
Because she's like a good character.
So so basically, it's kind of like Melissa's character. Is the whole part of the film for her is that she's fighting off her demons, right? That she doesn't want to turn into her father, and she starts to see reflections of Billy Loomis with the original actor, which I thought was great. Very similar to Scream 5.
Right. Which is,
comes back.
This is like one of the things, like,
Skeet Ulrich.
so I always have this issue when people talk to dead people in movies, and it's like, okay, so is she really talking to his spirit?
No.
And the spirit has like something to say?
No.
Or is everything completely
It's her interpretation.
a fabrication of her mind?
It's her interpretation of what he would probably say to her.
Right, and that's the funny thing. Like Skeet Ulrich says stuff, and she's like, oh, and it's like,
But basically,
it's not a real person.
But
It's not even a spirit.
He's
She's talking.
his voice.
She's speaking to herself, and
Yeah,
he's creating both sides of the
Yeah,
conversation.
her interpretation to herself is that
Yeah.
he's going to egg her on to like embrace this.
Right, but a lot of people watch these movies and they look at that and they go, "Oh, Skeet Ulrich just the original killer is talking to her." Like, no, he's actually really not talking to her. Like, he's freaking dead.
But that part, I mean, I'll tell you, it was just, I thought that was well done. Ultimately, like, I really enjoyed this. We get to the end, they're all outside. She's still holding on to the Billy Loomis face mask for a little bit. And you're like, all right, what's up with that?
Yeah, well, I think that was like supposed to be like the scene that
Oh, it was
happens at
symbolic.
the scene that happens at like at the end of a lot of horror movies where it's like, they did that quite a bit with Halloween and Friday the 13th, where like,
Yeah.
like it's all over, but one
not.
of the survivors has the mask, and now maybe
What's gonna happen?
They're gonna take over the helm.
Yeah.
Like, is she gonna become the next killer?
So
I don't think so, though.
So we get outside, and it's all the paramedics and everyone's there, the cops there, and everything. The two sisters are sitting in like
Of course, the
like
cops
ambulance.
never don't show up until after everything's
everything.
over.
Of course.
Yeah.
And so, and then all of a sudden you start hearing, "Hey, we got a survivor here," and it's the male twin, right, coming out on a stretcher.
And I'm like, really?
Really? And he's made it. And not only that, the sister shows up. The twin sister,
Who was stabbed pretty intensely.
who has left the hospital, shows up and is there, and they do the whole Core 4 thing, which again I found to be very funny.
Oh yeah, so right, like
And that's where we hear that Gail is going to make it.
yeah, I was gonna make it. Girls sent to the hospital with a stab wound, and they said, okay,
Nope.
we stitched you up, and you can leave now.
You're good. She never would have left. She was stabbed multiple times. She's staying in the hospital overnight.
Yeah.
But she left. So the four of them are all together, and then the boyfriend ends up waiting outside. I think he's the one who called the cops. He's like,
I think so, too, yeah.
like, when you guys didn't come out,
Yeah.
I called the cops.
Like
He tries to be a good guy.
he actually like he was good. I was glad he wasn't one of the killers.
So here's speculation time. Okay, so I'm on my way home and I'm talking with my nephew, and we're sitting there in the car, and we're going to ourselves. Now, what are they going to do for Scream 7? Right?
Who is this? You and Luke?
Yeah. So Luke and I are talking, and so she takes the first ghost face mask and she drops it on the ground. Now, if I remember correctly, Stu's face mask was missing. Don't they make a point of saying that in the evidence room when they're talking when the cop is going through all the evidence with Hayden Panettiere and they're going through all the different Ghostface killers? I could have swore, and I probably have to re-see it to remember it.
We would have to.
I
To
could
watch
have
the
swore they
movie
said
again.
something about Stu's face mask is missing.
And who's Stu?
He was the other killer from the first film.
Oh,
He's the one who had the TV dropped on him.
okay.
So now there's this whole thing where, is Stu really dead or not?
Well, it's got to be really dead.
And I'm pretty sure Stu's brother was killed in Scream 5.
Okay.
So anyway, so our whole theory, like the theory that we started talking about, was, what if Stu's not dead and ends up coming back to lure Neve Campbell out of hiding? That's how you get Neve Campbell back into the franchise.
Okay.
And Melissa's current boyfriend is really like a mastermind behind the whole thing, and maybe was Richie's roommate, and so he still has beef with her.
Oh, I could easily see all of that playing.
Right, and now all of a sudden you got Neve Campbell back.
Yup.
You got Melissa and her sister in, so it's like you're getting both worlds, the old and the new, together, because you got you got a killer from the old
Get
generation.
one of the original killers and
Killers.
the daughter of the other original killer. Going
Yes,
head
and
to
that
head.
yes,
Right, that's right.
That's poetic.
That's poetic.
Billy Loomis's daughter, right?
Yes.
And maybe Stu's trying to lure her to be a ghost face with him,
Mm-hmm.
and she is like teetering on what to do.
Oh, you got
my
you
God.
got Scream 7 and 8 already.
I mean, like, going through this, I was like, I think we just made the movie.
That would be kind of cool.
And I was like, oh my God, what you could do with that?
Because you got to realize, at the end of the day, the people
But
that
we
are
want them as
that are
listeners.
making money off this movie do not want it to be the last movie.
No, and it's not going to be the last.
Nobody. I mean, literally, nobody wants like a great money making send off. They want a
You gotta-
gravy
about
train that
continue the
keeps
franchise.
on going.
Yeah.
But the only sad part about that is that nobody is ever going to want to make that last movie with the great send off. And what's going to happen is it's the last movie is going to end off with a cliffhanger, and the next movie's not going to be green lighted, and it never.
It doesn't happen.
Right, because I can tell right now that has actually happened to quite a few
Yes.
films.
Absolutely.
It's like,
and you never know what happens.
and it was never made. They never. They just. And that's. Nobody's nobody's interested in making the complete story arc. Everybody's interested in just prolonging the story.
But I'll tell you what, I enjoyed this movie. I thought they've done a really good job so far. The two directors, because both Scream 5 and 6 were by the same directors.
Yes.
These two guys, I believe they're probably going to be doing Scream 7 together, is my thought.
I'm gonna say 2024. Wait, what are we in now? 2023.
I agree with you. I think probably 2024.
I think October 2024.
I could see it being pushed to then.
Because I can tell you right now, there's this big opening for October 2024. Because I don't think they're doing another Halloween movie, so they can sit there and say,
They can throw this back in the mix.
if there's no new Halloween movie in October, we can claim that.
Tell you what though, like it was decent. I'll tell you, it had me entertained. That's what it was. It was entertaining. Sure they had some spots where
Found
like
it entertaining.
there was definite spots of you've really got to spend some disbelief.
Yeah.
But know what you're watching. It's the Scream franchise. It's typically been that way. So like you've got to have you're going to have suspending disbelief. But I'll tell you, I had a good time. They had me guessing. That's like some of the fun, right? Is trying to
Yeah.
figure out who is involved in this whole thing. And I really liked it. I got to say, I enjoyed the movie. I'm looking forward to what they do next. I hope they get Neve Campbell back. I really do. the one thing I can say that this film did in particular is, you can do a Scream film without Sidney Prescott
Yeah.
because she was the main character up until Scream 5, but at least she was in Scream 5, you know? And other than getting a mention in this movie, there was really nothing else. And I thought it did well enough that, unfortunately, if you don't get her back, you could still do a Scream 7.
Yeah.
But I think the goal is going to be to try to figure out how do we get her back in the fold.
I mean, when you're looking at a franchise that is very soon going to be 30 years old.
Yeah, I mean, you're 27 years right now, so you're right
Yeah,
there on
I mean-
on the fringe.
So that's, it's got some legs.
But that says something.
And it hasn't done a reboot.
No,
A true reboot.
It technically it wasn't a reboot, and what did they call it? It wasn't a sequel. It was
They didn't just erase the board and start over.
no. They talk about it in the fifth film, and I found it really funny how they a requel,
Yeah, something like that.
a requel, something
Yeah,
like that.
I think they even talk about that in this movie.
And this movie too, but now it's deemed a franchise.
Yeah, they really talk about all
Like
this
the
stuff.
terminology
Yeah,
of what
yeah.
of what they're dealing with.
Yeah.
Which again, that's part of the stuff that I like when they have those conversations. But overall, if you haven't seen this film, go see it. It's a really fun slasher to see in the theaters.
Yeah, I think if I mean, I think so. I think so too. It's you turn your brain off a little bit, not all the way, but a little bit.
Yeah.
And you enjoy the ride. And if
100%.
you've been a fan of the Scream franchise, I think you won't be disappointed in this.
Not at all. I agree.
I'll be honest with you. I think I like it. I think I enjoyed it better than the last one.
I probably enjoyed just around the same amount.
It was close.
It was close.
close.
There was, oh god, just some of the legacy, like seeing Dewey die, like the way he did, like that was a good death scene. But yeah, guys, I think overall, I think we both enjoyed it. I think you will too. If you like if you like the Scream franchise, you're gonna like it. If you're a horror person, if you like slashers, you're probably gonna like it.
Yeah.
That's probably what I can say.
Yep.
All right. So with that, guys,
With that,
I think we're going to send off. Happy St. Patty's Day.
Happy
Again,
St. Patrick's Day.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in and watching. Next review up
hopefully, will be Shazam.
will be Shazam, Fury of the Gods.
Yep.
All right, guys.
Take
Take it easy.
care.
We'll see you at the movies.